Hello, I am your host, Kathy Chester, and welcome to the Move It or Lose It podcast, a podcast about all things that move the mind, body, and soul. The Move It or Lose It podcast is for information, awareness, and inspirational purposes only. I am not a doctor, and I don't even play one on TV, so please consult your doctor before making any medical decisions. The views expressed by advertisers, guests, or contributors are their opinions and not necessarily the views of the Move It or Lose It podcast. Hello, welcome to another edition of Move It or Lose It, the podcast where we talk about all things MS related and different injuries, different autoimmune diseases, different spinal injuries, and all things like that. So today we have one of my favorite interesting things that I've seen in many moons that we'd love to talk about, different devices, different things that help us to be able to move around, and movement, as we know, are one of my favorite things to talk about. So the inventor of Neo Walk Sticks, we've got Lyndsay Watterson, right? That's how we say your name.
Watterson.
Lyndsay Watterson is with us today. Thank you so much, Lyndsay, for being on Move It or Lose It today.
Thank you for inviting me, Kathy. I've been really looking forward to speaking to you.
Yes, for sure. Lyndsay, the more I read about you and the exciting things that you've done and just how you've created such an amazing invention. And now that I've got one of your walking sticks, I am so incredibly impressed by you. So having you on, I'm so excited. And we've been going back and forth the dates and how to do this. And so thank you so much for being on this podcast. I've been so looking forward to having you on with me. So
it's a pleasure, really. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to go back to life before the infection, before all of that, before Neo's walking sticks were ever even in your brain to create. Yeah. So before all of that, what was life like?
I was a mum, still am a mum, got two gorgeous kids, older kids now, they're adults now. I was actually a hairdresser. I'd trained and qualified to be a hairdresser in later life because the ambition was to set up my own business and set up my own salon and that kind of thing. So that was what I was working towards.
Okay. And then, so then what happened then? What happened with the infection?
So I'd had arthritis since I was in my teens. One of my knees in particular was pretty severe. So at the age of 39, my surgeon opted to do a knee replacement on me.
Okay.
And get me mobile again because I'd actually ground to a halt where I could walk properly and I was in a lot of pain. But during one of the surgeries, I contracted an MRSA infection inside the knee, and then I was stitched up and sent home. And the infection bubbled away for about 4 months, and with catastrophic results. Ultimately, it was 3 years later, I opted to have my leg amputated because I was left with an unusable leg, and all it was doing was holding me back. So I opted in 2010 to have my leg amputated above the knee. So and then another adventure began.
Wow. And that must have been devastating as a young mom to have that happen and really change everything. That really had to be,
changed everything. I could no longer make that plan to go to do the job that I wanted to do.
Right.
I had to rehabilitate and get my strength back because I had been very, very poorly when I had the infection. But actually, when I caught the infection and I was left with this severely damaged leg, at that point, I'd already lost it.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
It stopped being a team player. All it was doing was holding me back. So I allowed myself those 3 years to actually come to terms with the idea of having the leg amputated. And in the end, the actual process became to me just a process of looking forward to making progress again, because I would have a prosthetic and I would learn to walk again. And it's what I did. And it was great. It was the best decision I ever made.
Interesting. So that's because you'd already grieved it.
Completely.
Really?
And actually opting myself to have my leg amputated gave me the power back, because
Okay.
everything that had happened to me. I hadn't been a driving
Right.
force in any of it. But
Right.
actually opting to do that myself was really empowering.
Right.
It was a really good decision, yeah.
Very interesting. So then all of this happens, you get the prosthetic, and then you have to still use some sort of a cane, some sort of a walking. So then you use it and it's not working like you want. It's kind of still aggravating. Tell us the story about that. How did they give it to you? How did it work?
So the prosthetic that the was learning to walk again,
Mhm.
literally. It wasn't a hugely difficult process, to be honest, but it did take a lot of strength. So it involved a lot of building up new muscles and
Mhm.
waking up old ones that thought they'd
Right.
retired. And I did walk independently for quite some time.
Mhm.
I was super active because I was only in my 40s. I was
Sure.
super active, bionic Lyndsay.
Yeah.
And but I found that some days, I needed help. I needed, because if I
Sure.
was long away, I would get
Sure.
tired. I was just getting a bit unbalanced. So I wanted a walking stick, and I couldn't see anything that looked
Right.
like it belonged with me. They all
Right.
looked like I'd picked one up off the side of the road and it just
Right.
belonged to someone else. Do you know what I mean? So
Right.
I
Or I would
thought,
always say it looked like my grandma used it.
yeah,
It looks like something my grandmother used.
and
And nothing was like,
I was embarrassed because,
yes,
there I am, trying to look cool, and 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 I'm using this
right,
flowery
right,
walking stick that goes click, 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 click every
right,
time I use it.
absolutely.
And it was just, and I thought, but we can do better than this.
Right,
I'm a big believer in, if you can't find what you want, you make it yourself.
right.
So
Very interesting.
I
Well,
had a
you
couple.
already had that very creative gene, right? I mean, you're
Yeah,
a hairstylist. I mean, you already have that in you.
yeah.
You already have that creative gene.
And it's that when you have it, you do need
Yes.
an avenue to let it out. So I
Right.
actually I relished the idea of doing it. So
Yeah.
I decided I would make. I was still at a point where I wanted my mobility aid to be invisible. So what I was
Huh.
looking for was an invisible walking stick, and that was where
Interesting.
the idea for acrylic came
Okay.
clearer.
Yes.
It was the nearest I would get to being invisible. Um,
Okay.
but then when I did that, I made one at home, and
Okay,
I
so explain to our listener how you even did this, because this is so interesting to me and so funny. So I'm so not creative. I always say I'm creative in workouts. I love sculpting the body and helping the body move. That's my
yeah.
creativity. And in the kitchen. Other than that, anything other than that, it just doesn't come to me. So reading what you did is so incredible to me. So share this story.
But so I needed to make this acrylic hot enough to change the shape of it, to make it into a walking stick shape. And I put one end in my kitchen oven. Can't remember the temperature. Honestly, I think I made a couple of duff ones before I even made a proper one. Um, but then it got hot, and I molded it around a wine bottle
I love that.
to give it the curve. And I thought, it's just the perfect size. You pick up a wine bottle, you know how it feels.
Right, right,
So I thought that's going to be the perfect size. So I did.
right. I love
That,
it. I love
that's how
that.
the first one was born. And I went out and I used it, and I just felt great. I just,
Yeah.
the difference, the feeling it gave me.
What was
People,
the first one? Was it just clear?
I made a clear one and I made a
Yeah.
red one, because clear,
Okay.
because I wanted to be invisible, and then
Right.
red because it's my favorite color.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and using them, people were coming up to me and saying, "Oh, your walking stick's amazing. Where did you get that? Where?" And I just I made it. I made it myself. And then it happened and happened so many times. I thought one day I said, "Oh, I have a business and I make them." And somebody said, "Oh, have you got a business card?" And I'll look on it. And I thought, you know what? This is something that I could give to other people.
Yeah.
This feeling of feeling
Right.
confident and proud of it, and I want to
Right.
give that to people, and
And
that's
that
really,
was what year? What year was that?
that was in 2013, so it's 10 years
Wow.
ago. So
Yeah.
that's still the mission behind what we do, because that feeling remains the same. People use a stick. Do you know what? We get emails from, there's one, a lady said she hadn't left the house for 3 years because
Wow.
she was so ashamed to be seen with the mobility.
Unbelievable.
Gets one of
The
ours.
stigma is so sad.
It is.
It is. It's so sickening to me. It really
Yeah,
is.
it is. And that's what we're trying to do, is just to shift that focus from the user onto this gorgeous walking stick. And let's
And
talk
you're
about.
such a big part of it. And, if we all work together and we were sharing about that, and I told you I was going to share a couple of stories
Mm,
about
mm,
that. And one of them was when I was beginning to train for multiple sclerosis. And I was debating if I was going to go and do it on my own.
mm,
And I thought, I don't know, I kind of like the idea of being under a bigger company, something like
mm.
that. Um, and the company really, really made me feel terrible because they said, how embarrassing for us if you were to use a walking stick, because the whole idea is that you're strong enough that you don't need anything like that. And I
Yeah,
felt so embarrassed and humiliated that
awful.
I may need something at the end of the day, because what I'm doing is teaching all day. So I'm using all my muscles.
Yeah,
So imagine I'm fatigued at the end of the day. So it made me feel embarrassed. And
that's.
then, right. And I thought, you know what? I do want to be independent because I don't want anyone to feel ever the way I felt.
Mm,
And so that was when I made the decision that I may not make nearly as much financially, but I don't care. I want
mm,
to make sure that I make people feel good about themselves and I give people the gift of movement and
absolutely.
never make them feel the way I did about that
Yeah,
and about
yeah.
the stigma again of using a walking stick.
Mm,
Um, and the other one was the first time, as we talked about, going to get a cane. And I remember, saying that I was young. And I remember saying that, gosh, I don't want to grab a cane that looks like my grandmother.
mm.
And the man was young and he said, well, I guess if you need a cane, it shouldn't matter what it looks like. And I thought, wow. And it just, I mean, it's just so crazy what you face when you do need help
Yeah,
with this process into walking into something that is new for us and is a really big step. So it is so big what you've done and what you've created to make it easier for us
yeah,
to begin a step that is so hard for us.
it
So that
is.
is such a big thank you for all of us.
It's a big hurdle. It's a hurdle that I had to cross myself. And then I crossed another hurdle into using a wheelchair for the first time, and then another hurdle into using an electric chair for the first time. And each time there's a process that you kind of need to go through, because you're
Yes,
grieving the loss of something that you were previously able to do.
right,
Um, you can't underestimate how that makes you feel. So whenever somebody comes to us, and a lot of people do come and say, it's my first walking stick, what do I do?
right,
So we will hold their hand right the way through it and help them, guide them how to measure,
right,
talk to them about handles, what handle shape is best. We can
right,
we can tap into the experience that we've had with all our customers, and we can share that information with them. So, and we work with, do you know Gretchen Hawley?
yeah,
We work we do several live programs with her during the year, to where
right,
she'll explain, and it's the same way that we explain it,
right,
but sometimes it's nicer to come from a medical professional.
right,
And we talk through that process, and we ask questions about what she would advise people to do. But yeah,
right.
it's a big thing, and I think the support out there, sometimes from family too.
Right. Sure.
Family can be,
Absolutely.
you're not coming in my wedding photographs with a walking stick.
Absolutely.
We've had that. Family can be lacking in support as well. There's a
Which
lot
is
of room.
amazing.
Yeah, I
I
mean, we
mean,
just don't
you don't think that, but
know. no, but there's a lot of room for improvement, I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. And it is when you go to a hospital thing, I agree there is they don't measure. It's
Mm.
very odd, but you really don't get that. Remember my first stick, I was not measured. It was just
How
they
do
just let me
how
pick
did
it
they do
out.
it? Really?
Yes,
And just
they
go,
didn't
is
measure me.
does it feel comfortable? Then you're good to go.
Yes. Yeah, there was no measuring.
That's
Actually,
terrible.
so when I got my first needle stick, she said they explained to me how to measure because I was
Mm,
like, oh, I don't even know.
yeah,
And they were stunned. And I was like, no, the last time I got one at the hospital, I wasn't measured.
yeah. I mean, with
And
there's like an industry formula for measuring how long you need a
yes,
walking stick for, but the important
right,
thing to remember is everybody's different. You might
right,
prefer a bit taller or a bit shorter.
right.
And what we
Yeah,
say is, if it's comfortable for you, if you've got a stick at the moment and it's a bit
yeah,
longer than that, but you like it, that's your
right.
length.
Yeah,
You do you. But there is standard industry advice
yeah.
for how to measure. But that's terrible when the
Oh, I
industry is
know,
measuring it.
right?
That's terrible.
I know, but this is definitely the length for me, absolutely for sure.
Good, good.
So I wanted to go into let's see. So one of my questions I had for now we've gone on to some fun things. So we've gone on to your first order. Talk to us about the transition from making the sticks because you made them at your home. So
Yeah.
that's how you started, was just in your home. So the
Mhm.
transition from going from that and then hiring people. So that was the first transition, and then
Yeah.
going into a different place. How
Yeah.
did that all feel, and how did that even work?
I still feel like a bit of an imposter because, it's going really, really well. And I started out on my own and I ran on my own until I could no longer cope with it. I was literally frazzled. I was doing far too much. And then I took on one young lady who is still with me now. She's been with me. And now we're 8 people. The interest and the support has grown so much that we're actually 8 people now. And
Wow.
for a while, we still worked in my house. So I had 4 members of staff in my house working because I had a couple of spare rooms. Fortunately, the
Uh,
kids had left home. There was plenty of
uh,
room. So we were actually still working in the house up until June this year.
wow.
And then at the back of my house, we actually had a building purposely
Okay.
changed
Kind of
into
adjacent to that.
office and
Okay.
workshop because I've got my own disability. I'm amputee and I've got several other chronic
Sure.
illnesses going on. It's really handy for me to have it there, so I don't have to
Right.
go. And then days where I don't feel well enough to go into the office, I can just
Right.
stay in the house and they know I'm there. And if they want me, they can come and see me. So for me, it's the ideal compromise. But
I
I
understand.
I loved having them in my house. It was like having friends
Yeah.
for lunch every day,
Right.
'cause we've
Right.
got such
Right.
a lovely team. But yeah, so the transition has been. Um, I still find it bizarre when I go into the bigger workshop and bigger office, and I think, goodness,
Uh,
what have I done, and how did I do it? And it's just like
sure.
it's amazing, and I'm very proud of
Yeah,
what
as you
we've.
should be. I mean, how awesome is I'm trying to go to the question I had because I keep thinking Shark Tank, but it's your version of that
Yeah,
and how you
Dragon's
went
Den.
on
Yeah,
it's
Dragon's Den.
dragons. Okay, so talk to me about that because that is how nerve-wracking that must have been.
Well, I've watched Dragon's Den for lots of years.
Yeah,
It's been on 20 odd years. So
right.
everybody's kind of dipped in and out of it a bit, and some of the dragons are nice, some of them are really fierce. And I decided that I would go in and do this. We only had about 6 weeks notice to the filming, so the
Mhm.
pressure was so incredible because they expect you to know everything about your business inside and out. And to be fair,
Sure,
if you don't know it, you're a fool to go in there because
sure.
they grill you. They really do, and they're looking to trip you up. I think personally they're looking for tears and, and tantrums, but they didn't get one off me. So
Good,
I
good
went,
for
oh
you.
goodness, when you come out of this lift and you're faced with the fiercest dragon lady is right in front of you. I was just terrified. I was
Yeah,
utterly terrified. but they're lovely
You have to
people.
have such thick skin.
Oh, they're really nice people, but then they click into their TV
Right.
characters,
Sure.
and suddenly they're being nice, and then suddenly they're looking at you, then staring you down,
Right.
and asking you for figures and stuff, and it was nerve-wracking. This
Yeah.
one in particular tried to trip me up a couple of times, but she didn't manage. I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
get investment, but they
Right.
loved what we do. They thought they were
Mhm.
great products, the whole, the branding and everything. They thought they were great, and they said, "Lyndsay, you don't need us. Just go on and you'll do it yourself."
Yeah.
Uh,
And you
and
did.
I did. So I'm glad, but I'd do it again because
Yeah.
the experience was great. It was really it was
Interesting.
really
So
good.
less fearful the second time?
Say again?
So you did it a second time?
No, I would. I
Oh,
would.
you would. Wow.
Yeah,
So
no,
gosh, I can't even imagine doing that. I mean, I think I would just be terrified, but you did it.
I did.
So talk to me about the company. Where do you see it in the next couple years, next 5 years? If you could see it, where do you imagine?
So I'm 55 now, so I'm sort of looking towards, will I ever retire? I don't know. I'll probably be in my 70s and still
I feel the same way.
knocking out walking sticks. I love it.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it. For me, there's
yeah.
nothing to retire from. I'd miss it. So we'll keep working. We are looking in the future to make crutches. Which
Yes,
it's another. Disabled people use different aids for different days. I
sure.
did it. I did it. I've had crutches, walking sticks,
Yeah,
wheelchair, rollers. I've got the works, and I've used them all on different days. And we get asked so many times
yeah.
for walking for crutches.
For
I need
crutches,
I
yeah.
need them. So that's what we really, that would be, I would say, a 3-year plan.
Okay.
A 1-year plan, just to consolidate where we are, just to not grow too quickly. I'm not a business person, but I've learned a lot and I soak up a
Yeah,
lot of what people tell me. So
sure.
sometimes it feels like it's running away with us a bit. So I just want to consolidate what we've got. Certainly in the next 3 years, I would say we'll be looking at crutches. Next
Yeah.
5 years, I don't know. I'll probably still be sat here with all my dogs and all my staff, and we'll probably just be doing the same thing. But
Yeah.
that doesn't look bad to me. The future, it's like
No,
that.
I love that. No, it's been beautiful to see it grow and beautiful to see um, the people being able to use it and just the Instagram posts of people being able to do so many things.
Yeah,
And talk to me about what it's like. I've got mine right here, and this is the Christina Applegate one, and
yeah,
the
yeah,
FUMS, and
yeah.
the new. Was beautiful, and I love this. But talk to me about what it's felt like to have the stars use these canes. What has that felt like to have?
I'm going to show you something that might explain what the believe part is. When I
Uh,
first lost my leg, I had a tattoo. I can't show you it there.
oh, I love that.
So I've had
Yes.
that there. That's my word.
Yeah.
That's my word that gets me through tough
Yeah.
days. So that was
Yeah.
the obvious word to put onto this stick. Um,
Yes.
Also Ted Lasso, because I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan.
Yeah.
Uh, but when I first got an order, it was from Selma. I got Selma
Okay.
got an order one morning, and I was checking the order book, and there was this order from Selma Blair, and I thought, oh, how funny having a name the same as Selma Blair, thinking it
Right.
would be
That's
somebody else. And then it
right.
turned out it wasn't. And she's become a great friend of the business,
Right.
which in a roundabout way, I think she recommended us to Christina when Christina
Yeah.
was diagnosed. So, and Christina's become a great friend as well.
Sure.
Super normal people that just have
Yeah.
families and do the normal stuff that we all do.
Sure.
So yeah, we've formed a great friendship, but hugely proud seeing them out there on the red
Absolutely.
carpets and people asking about them, just getting that chatter going again. Look, there's Christina,
Yes.
the walking stick, and that message. That one that I did for her was a very special one for
Yes.
that she wanted to take to those awards.
Yeah.
And it's her message that she wants to give. It's
Yes.
her the way she lives with it. So that's why we
Yes.
designed the FUMS stick. Looks a little bit
Yeah.
grungy edgy. It looks a little bit,
Oh, I love it. I
yeah,
really love it. When I
it's
got it, I was like, oh, I love this.
quite
Yeah.
edgy. It's
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, it's been great, and it's an opportunity for us to donate some money to MS charities, which
Absolutely. Yeah.
we're very, very much looking forward to doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we
Yeah.
do something
Which we
similar.
appreciate so much.
You're welcome. We do
Thank you.
something similar with another colour where we donate some money to the Cancer Research UK, which it's a nice thing to do. It's nice to be able to
Yes.
give back, because these charities are really important to our
Yeah.
customers. So that, you know, they're important.
Sure.
They're important to us.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
that's why I saw the orange and I'm like, orange. So of course that it was exciting, but it is because like we talked about with the invisible diseases, it's tough and it makes it more beautiful and easier for us to be able to come out if we are overly tired when people may not see it every day. Obviously, most people would never guess that there was something wrong with me. If
Yeah.
I'm out doing something, unless I've walked too long, people don't
Mhm.
see my foot drag
Yeah.
until I've done too much. And then I'm looking in the car immediately. And it's so beautiful to grab this because it's more of a talking piece now
Yeah.
about, oh, this is where'd you get this? This is beautiful, rather than, oh my gosh, what's wrong with you?
Wrong with you.
So that becomes this talking piece rather than people staring at me like, why is she walking so strange? What's going
Yeah.
on?
But
So it makes it easier.
why do people feel that they're able to walk up to you and say, "What's wrong with you? What happened to you?"
Right?
Like, you're going to spill your medical history to a complete stranger? I just don't. And then you feel rude if you say, "Can you mind your own business?"
Exactly. Or the same if your handicap placard's up and you're
Yeah,
going into a store walking fine
yeah,
because you know after
yeah,
this trip at the mall, you're not going to be walking so
yeah,
fine. You know, it's the same thing. It's
exactly.
just you want to say, can you mind your own business
Yeah,
sometimes? And
mm,
it's that frustrating area of
yeah,
but
it
that's
is.
life.
Well, it kind of is, but I wish it wasn't.
Right.
Would you ever do that? Would you ever walk up to someone and
No,
say, "I would never dream of it"?
it's
Never.
so it just seems that a culture has gotten so rude
Mm,
and so just you know, it just and it's sometimes when I think, oh my gosh, I'm getting like my grandmother. But I
yeah,
do believe, right? And I think, oh, I'm getting really old. I'm starting to think like this. But
yeah,
I just think it's gotten to this point where, you know, there's not this idea that, well, maybe instead of thinking that the worst of people in parking like this or the maybe just think that I may not know. So just think
mm,
the maybe just think the positive and just
yeah,
mind my own
yeah.
business.
Do you know what makes me embarrassed is when if I'm waiting to go into an accessible bathroom and
Uh-huh.
somebody comes out who isn't in a wheelchair or who isn't, and they feel they've got to explain to me, and I just no, just don't. I don't want to know. It doesn't matter, you know,
Right.
because these
Exactly.
these invisible, they're there, they
Right.
exist. Just because I'm in a wheelchair and you can
Right.
see what's wrong with me, it's quite makes it a bit easier for me somehow because I've got
Sure.
one leg. People look at me and go,
Right.
"Oh, one leg, fair enough."
Right.
Won't bother her, unless
Right.
they get into why I lost it. But, you know, people come out
Right.
of the toilets and they feel like and they say sorry, and I'm like, "Just don't." Honestly,
Right.
it's not. But
Yeah.
that clearly they do get challenged by people.
Yes, very
Mm,
much so. So now
mm.
how is this with your walking sticks? Are there still days where there's times of depression with this, or do you feel with this, has it made you feel more empowered and there's not that?
No, I have days, often days where I do feel quite low, quite down because my conditions, some of which are still being diagnosed, that
Hmm.
aren't anything to do with losing my leg,
Right.
ironically. My leg's fine. It's absolutely
Right.
okay. The rest of me that's falling apart. I am dealing again with that grieving, with that loss. You know, it is difficult, and I do wonder where I'm going to be in 2 or 3 years, and what I'm going to look like, and what my physicality is going to be, and what my needs are going to be. So I do worry about it. I do worry about it. But you believe in your support
Right.
system, around you, and believe in yourself, that
Right.
you've been through so much already. You can do what the rest that's coming, you can do it.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I have to give myself a bit of a talking to sometimes, get a bit low on confidence sometimes, and I think I don't want to go out. I just don't want, because I know people probably do look at me. They'll glance at me. They won't. I don't think they'll linger on and stare at me, but I know people do look at me, and sometimes I think I just don't want that today. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, I
so
hear you.
I shut myself in at home and just stay at home. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've got plenty of days like that. Plenty
Yeah.
of, and I think, I'm no different to you, anybody
Yeah.
else that's living with chronic illness.
Right.
It is a process of grieving and loss and struggle and achievement, and then, one step forward, two steps back. It's
Sure.
such a change. It changes all the time. Talk about goalposts moving. I mean,
Right.
some days you can barely see them. They move so fast.
Yes. Right. And I
It's
think too, with you, you are so busy. You are in the limelight a lot. So I think
mm,
that pulling yourself back and being alone in the house is a very healthy thing. I
yeah,
think that you need that. If you didn't, I would think that that would be almost very unhealthy. You've got to have that time
yeah,
alone.
absolutely. And I do, and I love meeting people. When we go and do some exhibitions in Birmingham. We go every year, and I love meeting the people that come along and hearing their stories, and
Sure.
they want to hear my story.
Absolutely.
But when I dwell on my story, sometimes, sometimes when I say it, I think, God, that sounds really miserable. And I'm living it. This is my life. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes I just have to withdraw a bit, and
Yeah. It takes a lot out of you to share
balance.
your story a lot.
It takes a lot of energy, doesn't it? You
Mhm.
give a lot, and but it's life. It's what we've got.
Right.
And I'd rather
Right.
have this life than none. And
Absolutely.
take this life any day over the other option.
Yeah.
You and we've fought hard to get to where we are, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Mm,
Absolutely. And you are a fighter and you are inspiring.
thank
And I know it's scary to face it feels like you fought one disease or one thing, and it's like, and there's another around the corner. You're like, no, this can't be.
you.
I remember walking in with, being told that I've got epilepsy, and I'm like, no, I refuse
Yes.
to accept that. This is just, I've already have two and I'm done. It's not acceptable. And she
Yeah,
was like, I know, sweetie, but it is what it is. And I'm like, no. So it
I
is,
once when you get to 50, it's like being in Sniper's Alley. Everything's just trying to get you, and you're just dodging things as you go along. And
exactly.
it feels
That's what
like
my
that.
husband and I say. I'm like, no more. It's like where I've got our Apple Watches sunk to like seizures, heart issues at night. I'm like, this is crazy. I don't want to reverse it. So
No,
it's
please,
insane.
oh, thank you. Move on to someone else.
Exactly, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
But
okay, my question is gonna go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was
Go
going to
ahead.
say you're so much like me. I see so much that we have so much in common.
I agree.
you've done nothing but smile all the way through this, and I think when you can do that, when you're fighting with what we're fighting with, it's you know
Yes.
it is it's a gift. It's lovely.
I think you have to. I think when you stop and give in to the depression part of it, or the woe is me, is when you give up.
Yeah,
And then you go into that black hole,
yeah,
and that black hole is dark, and I don't want to go there.
yeah,
And I'm sure you've been there. And it's a place that it's so hard to crawl out of. And so I work really hard at staying out of that. And
yeah,
part of that is obviously, move it or lose it.
yeah,
And I believe, wholeheartedly in moving my body, even when my studio is adjacent to my home. And I believe that I'm going to, go in and move my body, because if I don't, then I know the feeling that I will have.
Yeah.
And so that's, why I teach seated, movement and
Mhm.
standing, because I truly believe in that it is our medicine for us. And
Do
that's,
you think that's one of the things that keeps you being able to drive forward? Without
yes.
it, without it, what do you think your life would be like? Where do you think you'd be?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, my aunt and my grandfather both had MS, and they
Uh,
both had it at a time where even when I had it, I've had it for over 25 years.
mm,
And we were all told, you just lie down, rest, no movement. They both
right.
died. And when I found out, I refused to do that. I
Yeah.
did the opposite. I I did all exercise, and I believe that was why I stayed healthy. I changed my diet. It just seemed, it made no sense what the
Yeah.
doctor said. I just did what felt correct
Yeah.
to me. And I
Yeah.
do believe that that's what kept me going, and why people look at me now like, how 25
Yeah.
years later.
So
And I
so
say,
how long have you had the mantra, move it or lose it? When did you come up with that?
I right away, I remember hearing that, someone saying that, maybe in the doctor's office or something,
Mm,
saying whatever you don't use, you'll lose.
yeah.
And so in my head, I thought, I will move everything, because
Mhm.
I'm refused to lose anything.
Yeah.
So I remember just feeling that all the time, saying it to myself, keep
Yeah.
moving that, don't
Yeah.
stop. I
Yeah.
refuse to lose that.
No,
So
amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's a brilliant mantra. You could just say that to yourself every day in the
yeah,
mirror, that actually say it, and that's really motivating, isn't it?
yeah,
I
yeah.
might I might try that.
Yes. Well,
I'll think
I would
I'll
love to
think
do that with you.
I'll think about you and I'll try it and I'll say
Do
to
that.
myself, move it or lose it and see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is very, very inspiring. Then, my program is disrupt, and I love that word. I've used that for the last 10 years. And I love the idea of disrupting, the
Yeah.
idea of
Yeah.
what you think you can't do, of what
Yeah.
you think I'm disrupting the idea of this overshadowing my emotions, of
Yeah.
this taking who I am. And
Mhm.
I just love, disrupting the word. And
Completely.
so it's just, I loved empowering what you think you can't do.
Yeah.
And so it's just,
A lot of beliefs aren't actually
yeah,
built on any solid foundation, are they? They're just beliefs that are passed down from generation to
absolutely.
generation, and that they're not built on anything. So yeah, just
Right.
you tip it upside down and
Absolutely.
see what comes out. Yeah,
You
and
bet.
in a way, I mean, we're disrupting the mobility aid market, the market.
Yes.
We are, but we're disrupting also that belief, that stigma. We're
Right.
trying to turn that round. So
You
we're
definitely are.
doing the same
All
thing.
right. I'm not going to let you go unless you tell me about the circus. So you've got to tell me the circus. You got
Oh,
to talk to me.
goodness. At one point, someone asked me what my occupation was, and I had to say circus performer because I was a fully paid circus performer. But yeah, it came out of the blue. Was I interested in doing something for the ceremonies? That was it. All they could tell me, it was working at height. And I thought, yeah, not fond of heights, but we'll see. Just go along
Now,
for
I
the
would
ride.
have thought for sure you would be.
Yeah, I didn't know. I'm not fond of them really.
Okay.
So I went and did the audition.
Okay.
It was actually on a wire, like a body harness and a
Yeah.
wire. So there was lots of at the time I was doing lots of yoga as well. So I was I was the person that could, hold myself straight
Right.
like that. And they were like,
Yeah.
whoa, you're really good.
You're really
So
limber.
I got the gig and I trained for 6 months to be a circus performer on trapeze,
I love
hoops,
this.
ropes, silks, all that. Yeah, it was amazing.
Wow.
And I performed in the opening and closing ceremonies of
Now,
London
how
in
old were you?
2012.
Were your kids already born?
Oh God, my kids were there in the audience. My mother came
Oh,
to the closing
wow.
She nearly had a coronary when she saw what I was wearing to start with. Yeah. No, the kids were like older teens, so they
Oh
came.
gosh, so they had to be, were they embarrassed or excited?
They were just so proud. They were
Oh,
just
good,
absolutely
good,
proud, really, really proud.
good.
Yeah, I did the opening and closing, but the closing ceremony was just unbelievable because I performed a stunt on
Uh-huh.
underneath a motorbike. So there was
That's
the
amazing.
the big Olympic stadium, and then there was a high wire going from the
Uh-huh.
ground right to the top of the stadium. And on this wire was a motorbike, and hanging in
Uh-huh.
the wings for the motorbike on a trapeze was me. And
Wow.
flew across the stadium, and there was Coldplay playing underneath me. And
Wow.
it
That's
was just,
you should be sending these videos out.
it was like the thing of a dream. I'll send you a link to
Wow,
some
definitely I want to see this.
mad.
That's awesome.
It was one of the most unbelievable nights I've ever had. So
When
yeah,
I read that, I was like, what?
yeah, I know. Like as performer, and then I carried on and did it for a few years. I went to Brazil and we taught circus to
Wow.
the next, because Brazil got the Olympics after we did. So we went to
Okay.
Brazil a couple of
Right,
times,
right. Yeah.
performed a lot in the UK. So yeah,
Okay.
I did a lot of circus, and it
That's
was
awesome.
made friends that will never leave me. We've made firm
Yeah.
friends. That's
That's
10.
really neat.
Yeah, it was great.
I love that. I love that. Well, I
Yeah.
love everything that you're doing. I love your spirit, your heart. I love that you're creating a team. I love that you're consolidating and really kind of getting a handle of what, because it's hard when you grow so fast
Mm,
and it's easy to kind of go bonkers and just go, I want to do more, 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 more. But
yeah.
I love your heart to just kind of like wait and let's make sure that we are doing this the right way and that we're meeting the needs and that we're doing what our heart's supposed to do in the first place. You're making such a big difference in the world of so many people that need canes, whether it's different autoimmune diseases, whether it's people that have unseen diseases, or people that have that are seen, that are visible and are embarrassed to go out,
Yeah.
like the person that emailed you or talked to you about not leaving the house for 3 years.
Yeah.
Was it 3 years or whatever it was?
Yeah. Very sad.
Which is extremely sad. And so being able to have something as badass as this, or as beautiful as some of the canes, the walking sticks that you have. And so if you've not seen them, go on neowalks.com and you've got to see how beautiful these are and how proud you'd be at taking them out. And it felt like I just felt amazing having this and taking it out. And it was my birthday that I had it. And
Oh,
so it was just magnificent. And
I'll tell
um,
you, I'll tell you about one more stick that we made because
yes.
it's very special. It was for a young lady who was getting married and her father had passed. And she asked us if we could incorporate some of his ashes into her walking stick for her wedding.
Oh,
So
wow.
we had the local plastics engineers drilled a channel down the rod before we made it, and we put her dad's ashes in it, and then sealed it, and then formed the stick. So she actually had her dad in her handle. Uh,
Oh, wow.
so
Oh,
she was
Lindsay.
she was holding him. Isn't that
Wow.
special? That,
Yeah.
that was just such a privilege to be
I was
asked
going to
to.
ask you, what is one of your favorite stories?
Oh, that, I mean, beyond it.
Yeah.
It was such a
Yeah.
privilege to be asked and then to be trusted with, with dad's ashes.
Wow.
We made this stick for her, and then he'll be with her, and she'll be holding him.
Wow.
And that's
How
just,
incredible.
yeah, magic, magic. So
Yeah.
that's probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. To be able to do that, how amazing
yeah,
to be a
yeah,
part of that.
yeah. So
Wow.
very, very proud of that.
Really special. Well, you do make magic. That's for sure. You make magic for a lot of us. And
Thank
we so appreciate you and what you do for a lot of us. And so thank you so much for being on Move or Lose It today. And I know many will appreciate seeing you, and many who know you will just appreciate being able to see you and know you in a different light and be able to see more of you. And so anything that they don't know how to get a hold of you, they'll be in the show notes at the bottom. So you'll be able to contact if you're unaware, which I'm sure most of you know, but if you don't, you'll see it at the bottom of the show notes. So again, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure that you go ahead and subscribe and push like. And again, thank you, Lyndsay, so much for being on today. So again, guys, bye and have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Move It or Lose It podcast, where you can again find us every Tuesday, and also wherever you like your podcast, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. Join us on that, and we can't wait to see you again. We're going to have a lot of exciting guests and working together. And as always, you'll hear us say at the end of every podcast, we are stronger together. So let's do it. Let's become stronger together. Have a great day.